AI is revolutionizing how you can work with Power Automate Desktop as an RPA developer. Stay ahead of the curve and I'll show you here how much you can do. There's no boring PowerPoints today. There's all practical step-by-step guidance which you can apply yourself. So please open up Power Automate Desktop and do all the things with me. You will learn much faster. If the video goes too fast, simply just pause or rewind it. It's designed for that. I'm Jensen, a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. Let's get started by applying AI to our work. We will use ChatGPT, we will use OpenAI, Copilot, and much more. First of all, we will open Power Automate Desktop. Then we also want to open up a web page. So go to rpachallenge.com. This is a common challenge solved by RPA developers. Usually we want to solve it with selector work. We will do so today, but we will not solve it ourselves. We will make ChatGPT, and more directly, we will create an API call to the OpenAI backend, that's the company behind ChatGPT, and have ChatGPT solve it directly for us dynamically. So we will start a place, and that is we want to download this Excel book. So please do so with me. So I will right click this one, save link as, and let's just place it on our desktop. It lies fine there, it's easy to find. So I click save. Let's go inspect it. So I'll double click here. The first thing you want to do is to click enable editing. And here you can see some data. We have 7 columns: first name, last name, company name, role in company, address, email, and phone number. We also have 10 records from John to Lara with their data. There are some invisible rows here. So click this 12, and this is part of the challenge, but we could easily have Power Automate Desktop solve it, but that's not the scope today. We are looking into the future with AI, so simply just click the 12, Control Shift down arrow, that will mark everything. Then right click here, click delete. We have deleted all these invisible rows. So what we want to do here is to iterate this data and fill it in on our web page that we will see in a few seconds. So simply just save it here and close it. And you go to the browser. So what you want to do here is to fill in for each one of these rows, you want to fill in here. That is, once we start the challenge, we click start. And you can see all these fields. We have the address, email, and so forth. Each time we fill in the record, we want to click submit, and now you can see these fields are changing. This mimics an unstable system. You can see that as a CRM system or something similar, and we want to handle that. That's part of the challenge. Usually we had to handle this ones ourselves. Today we will have AI handle it for us live. So let me minimize this again. We will pick up the path to this Excel book. So Shift right click, and then you'll find the copy as path. If you are in Windows 10, however, you want to press Shift right click, and if you are in Windows 11, you can just right click. So there's a little difference there. Doesn't make anything changing, just need to know. So we create a new flow here in Power Automate Desktop. I will call mine RPA Challenge GPT, and I'll click create. We will first read our data. Then we want to read that into a data table, that is the Excel data, into a data table. Then we want to open a web page. We want to have this filling in, and then we will solve the problem through the ChatGPT. So go up to actions, and here you want to find a set variable and drag it in. This is for the Excel path, so I'll call this one Excel path. Then in value, I press Ctrl+V. Remember, we had the path to our Excel book. So I delete the 2 quotation marks. Power Automate Desktop doesn't need those, so I click Save. Then we can open the Excel instance. Go up here to Actions and then find a Launch. Drag in the Launch Excel. We will not open a blank document, so click this drop down, open the following document. We want to open this document, which we just created a variable for. So click this X, double click the Excel path. We don't need it to be visible, so untick this. And we also want to open as read-only. So far, so good. So then we can click save. We can open it as read only because we're not going to save any data back. Then we can read the data. So I'll say read from Excel worksheet and drag this one in. We're working in the Excel instance that we just created. And click this drop down. All available values from the worksheet, we're going to read everything. We're also going to tell Power Automate Desktop that we don't have headers, that we have headers in our data, so click this advanced. First line of range contain column names. Default is that we have no headers, which we of course have here. Variables produced, that is called Excel data. That is a data table. I can click save, that's fine for now. I also want to close the Excel instance, so I just find a close Excel and drag it in here. The instance I want to close, that is the Excel instance, and I don't want to save the document. I can't because I open it as read only. Click save. Now I want to launch a new browser. So I find a launch new. I'll take the Microsoft Edge. That's my preferred one, but you can easily go with Chrome or Firefox. Just avoid Internet Explorer. We're going to launch a new instance, and then we go to the API challenge, www.apachallenge.com. Maximize the window. That is because it's easier to see when we develop. There's no real reason for it. And then we want to say variables produced, called browser. That will be the browser instance variable, which we will work in. So here I click save. I can also go down here to run delay, change this to 1. That is just the delay between the actions here in the development phase. That is only when we have the editor open. It's a little bit easier. It goes a little bit faster. Let's test it and see that we can indeed read the data. So I click run, then we are launching the Excel, and we should open up the browser in a few seconds. There we go, and this is our page. Go back to Power Automate Desktop. So what you want to see here is that we have a status ready and a green check mark. That means that we made Power Automate Desktop found no errors. I also want to go over here to variables. In case it looked like this, simply just click this X here, double click the 10 rows and 7 columns. Here you go. We have our 10 rows. So these are the data that we want to iterate through. We want to populate the web page with these. So click close. Let's go back here. The first thing I want to do before populate is to click start. I only want to do it once, and then the challenge starts. These 10 records will be filled in by our Power Automate Desktop flow. So find a click link on web page and drag it in here. We want to create a UI element for that start button. So click this drop down, add UI element, open up your page. Let me move here. In case you don't have the start button, that could be that you already clicked it, then it doesn't say start. You can simply just refresh the web page, the RPA challenge, then you will see the start. Once you can see here, you can pick these elements with red borders around it. So press Ctrl and then click on this button with your mouse. We have created a UI element. So that's a UI element. Got an address. It's called a selector. That's what Power Automate Desktop does automatically for us here. And we click save. Once we click start, we can iterate to each data record, that is rows in our data table. A data table is a collection of data rows. That means that we can use a for each. So we take this collection of data rows one by one and iterate through them. Go up to actions and find a for each. In case you don't see it, you simply just need to expand this loops and find it here. Drag in the for each. The value to iterate, that will be the Excel data. That will be the data table with 10 rows and 7 columns. Click this little X here and double click here. We want to store it into the current row. And that is just a reference variable. We call it current row because it is indeed the row. That is just a storage name where, so for each iteration, we can refer to the current row to get the data of that row. Now we can do something. I want to populate. So I want to find a populate text field on web page, which is here. I drag that one in here. So I'll also create a UI element for that. Click the drop down add UI element. My address is here, and that was the one that changes, so yours will probably be in another place. That's fine. Once you found it, so you find this input text, press Ctrl, click with your mouse, this UI element gets created. Go down to text. That is the text that we want to send to this field. Here I click this little X, and now I click current row. So this will be the entire data row. I also want to specify which column. That will be the address column. So hard bracket, single quotation mark, and I'll say address, single quotation mark, hard bracket. That's it. So once we click this one here, let us find the RPA challenge again. I also want to click submit, and that was, I want to do that for each one of these records. So let's also do so. Here I find a click link on web page and drag this one in here. What I really think this should be named as is click element on web page, because as you see here, it clicks on a link or any other element of a web page. So I use it for all things that I want to click, and it's silly that it only says a link, but hey, that's how it is, and it's been that for many years. So I click this drop down, add UI element, find this submit, press Ctrl, click it with your mouse, and we're there. So now we can test it. I can click run. What you'll see here, it opens up the Excel instance, closes it again. Open up here, it will click start, that one works, but then you'll see it fails. And that is indeed because these fields are changing, and that's part of the challenge, which we usually have solved manually. We will not do so today. So right now, Power Automate Desktop probably failed if we go back here, and we can see what's going on. It says that the forms field with the selector, and then the selector comes input with an input element and an attribute value ID equals QB, not found. And that is because this populate text field on web page, it looks for this input address field. And let's go over here to the UI elements. Click this stack of papers. Then you double click on the input text. Mine is called QB. You probably have 4 other characters. Double click those. This is the selector for this element. So this is what Power Automate Desktop tries to find. An input element with the ID QB72Q. And let's go to the last instance of RPA challenge over here. And that is this address element. So then we want to inspect what's really behind it, because these selectors, they are called CSS selectors, and that's because they look for the CSS or the HTML behind this web page. Each element on this web page got an address, and that is called a selector. We open up the developer console either by clicking F12 or right-clicking and click inspect. So if I click right-click, I can actually do it anywhere on the page. Just right-click, inspect. Then I want to make sure that I'm inspecting this. As you can see down here, we have the code for the web page, and you can see here I can scroll to it with the mouse. Different elements get selected. In case your developer console goes over here to the right, I think it's more easy to have it below because these rows can be quite long. So simply just click the 3 dots and dock to the button. Make sure you are in Elements. Now you want to click this screen with this arrow. Go up here to address and click. Then this row gets highlighted. You can see that we indeed have the input element right here. And then we had this ID attribute, that also fine. But then we see the attribute value is something with a CR, and we were looking for an attribute value called QB. That is because this attribute value changes each time we hit submit or reload the page. So once you see I click submit here, let me inspect this address. Here you can see the name, the ID is now called V8K. So that one changes. That's why Power Automate Desktop can't find it. We want to solve it with ChatGPT. And usually you have solved this challenge by going to use the ng reflect name attribute, because here we can see we have a unique and stable attribute value. But today we will solve it dynamically. That is, we want to have ChatGPT to read these HTML code off the page, and then we want to send that to ChatGPT and create this selector dynamically for us. So that is so nice. And let's see how we can do that. So I can close down this developer console. Now, what you want to do here is to right-click anywhere on your page. Then you want to click Save As. Let's go to our Downloads folder, which is here. Make sure that it says apachallenge.html, and then click Save. So now we have the HTML file saved here. And let us let's go look for it. And let me just open up the File Explorer. Go to Downloads. I can also open it up here. So here it is, this HTML. We also downloaded the folder, which we will not use. Go right-click on it, open with, then you will see Notepad. Here we have this file. So what we want to do here is that we want to find the body, that is, will be where the elements lies, where we have it. So what you can do here when you're in this apachallenge.html, you can press Ctrl+F. That will be to look for something. I can delete this. What you want to do is to have a look for a body like this. Press Enter, and that one is here. So we want to mark this, then take a few lines. Then you want to say Control, Shift, and then Home, because then it marks everything before that body. You can just press Delete, and maybe I can also delete these lines here. That's it. Then this is the code that we want to use. I can also take away this body in the end and the HTML. So this is what we want to send and have analyzed. And by the way, you can probably see we have the last name here. We have the first name. We also have the address. Someone here. Of course, I can look for it. And that's because we need a D, like this. And we have it up here. So here we have what we just found before. We have the value address, label address, and all the other things from before. So this one we sent to ChatGPT, and then we have ChatGPT to look at it and create a dynamic selector. That will probably be, we use this ID here. So it needs to say, where is this ID? And then it will pass that data and use it in a selector. So what you will do here is to press Ctrl+S or Save. Now we modified it. We just took out everything between the two bodies. Let's go to ChatGPT. So I'm going to do that in the browser. I'll say chat, OpenAI.com. For those of you not familiar with ChatGPT, this is a large language model, a chatbot, where it can help us with many things. It can write stories, brainstorm ideas, summarize large text, write codes, and it can also create good selectors. So in case you see a login or sign up, simply just sign up for this. It will bring you so much value. In case you have the ChatGPT, we need to be in the paid version. That will be the ChatGPT 4, because then we can upload files. We can also use the free model, and then we just need to copy paste the text in. But that's also an option. You can have the free version of ChatGPT. I will show you both. So here I will say this is the HTML body of a web page, Shift Enter, 3 single quotation mark, Shift Enter. And this is just to create a little structure. These 3 single quotation marks, that is just to separate my data, because now I want to have the HTML body inside it. And let's also, let's wait a bit by uploading it. Let's just, in fact, right click, open with the notepad. Let's just copy the text here, because then everyone can be it. So I mark it and Control+C, then everyone can help us with this. So then I just Control+V, Shift Enter, 3 single quotation marks, and then I want to paste in the task. So you can also do this if you use the free version. And here I want to say create a CSS selector for the input field where you can enter where someone is living. Encapsulate the selector between 2, and then I want to say pipes like this. That is just to isolate it. Do not return any other text. And let me explain what this is. So create a CSS selector. That is a CSS selector. That's the selector type that we use in Power Automate Desktop. In fact, it is a child combinator CSS selector. Then I want to say where you can enter where someone is living. So here I'm not saying I want to take the address. And that is if this one changes. So if they call the element residential address or something, this will also work. Then I want to say encapsulate the selector between two pipes. And that is just to isolate it so it's easier to pass. Do not return any other text. That is to make that I don't need any other text, just to make completely sure. I can send this, and if you go here, we can see that we created a selector called input ID VHK8K. That was indeed the selector that we used here, and which we found up here in the address. So right now we created that in this browser interface. What we want to do is to connect to the backend of this program. So of course we don't want to sit typing or have a robot typing in ChatGPT. It would work. I want to send an API call, and that is a call behind the scenes to OpenAI, that's the company behind ChatGPT, and create this selector dynamically. So now we see it's possible. We need to find some reference for this API call. So open up a new browser tab. Then you want to go to platform.openai.com. Log in if you're not, but if you just logged into ChatGPT, you will be logged in. You can see that by going down here. I can see I'm logged in. First thing we want to do is to make sure we have some credits here. So click settings. Then you want to click billing. And you can see I have a credit balance. That's fine. We will probably be using $0.1 today. Then you want to say add to credit balance if you are out of credits here. Otherwise, everything is fine. Then you click this log where it says API keys. Create a new secret key. And here we can call this one Pat Challenge. Click create secret key. We now have a key in our clipboard. If we click copy here, API key copied, I can click done. Remember to not share this key with anyone, because then you can use your credits. I only have $7 and I will delete this key after this video, but if I didn't, anyone could use those $7. So far so good. I go back to Power Automate Desktop, and here I can just click cancel, because before we use this selector, we will make an API call to OpenAI, and then we will send the HTML code, ask OpenAI to give us the selector, which we will use here. So this is quite revolutionizing, and let me show you how clever that is. First, we will create a few variables. So I will have a set variable up here, and I will call the first one API key. Control V to paste it in here in the value, and I'll click save. I also want an endpoint. An endpoint is the address to this OpenAI API. So I'll have another set variable. I will call this one endpoint, and I'll go to value. Let's find that endpoint. So if you're still in the OpenAI page, I can click this logo up here, API reference, scroll a little bit down to making requests, and it's this HTTPS : is what we want. Unfortunately, it's a little bit difficult to copy from here. Mine is lagging. So what I want to do here is to click this copy code, and I can open up a new one here. And I want to take this HTTPS completions. So this is the endpoint. So this is a URL I use to call the API from OpenAI. So I will have that one. Go back here and Control V. We will paste in that endpoint here. So what we want to do here is that we will click save. Then we also want to, in the flow, we want to save the file. And where do we want to save the file to? We just want to save it here to the downloads. So we need the path first. What I can do here is that I can right click if I'm in Windows 11, or shift right click if I'm in Windows 10. Copy as path. Now you can delete it. You can delete both files if you want, but we will delete it. And then we have the path in our clipboard. Go here, create one other variable, and this one will be the HTML file path. The value, Ctrl+V, delete the 2 quotation marks. So this is where we want to store the HTMLs that we download for each iteration, and we also delete them, don't worry. So now we have that. So remember that this page changes each time we press submit. So before we do anything, we want to save this site. And what we can do here, let me go to a challenge. What you can do to save the HTML code behind the site is, in fact, you can press Ctrl+S. That will open this dialog box, and you can see we have downloads. We can just click save here. So that's what we're going to do. And let me just click cancel now. We will send these keys to the browser window. To do so, we will have a send keys here, drag it inside the for each. We will not send it to the foreground window, but the UI element. We will create the UI element, and here you will just pick the document. You can see it here. So press Control, click the entire page. Doesn't matter where you are, in which field, we have it here. Then we want to say, what keys do we want to send? We want to send the control in curly brackets, and in parentheses, you will find an S. You can also have used these ones here. I just find it easy to type it out when we know it. Then you want to send text as hardware keys, like this. So now we are saving it, but we also wanted to, remember, when we're here and press Ctrl+S, we also need to press save. So we will add that one in, and that will be a click UI element in window. Remember here that we're not on the web page anymore. Of course, we have it in the background, but this download window, that is in fact a UI element. So make sure you take that one here, click UI element in window, and then we want to create that add UI element. Take the save button, Control, click the save button, and we click save. So now we're downloading it. We also know that we need to read it, but sometimes there's a little lag of maybe 1 second. So we want to add a little delay, and we want to have a wait for file. And that is, so we want to pause the flow until this file is downloaded. So after we click save, we will have a wait for file. Wait for the file to be created. What file do we need to wait for? Well, we want to wait for the HTML file path, because that is exactly where the file is going to be downloaded. And yes, we could make this even more stable, but that's not part of the exercise. So here we have it. We can also say only wait 10 seconds because it should be downloaded by then. I can do this. So then I know that either it fails here, then the whole automation stops. We will not do error handling today. We could do. And then we can start reading from the file. So here I will say read text from file. So this is, we take everything here, and here the file path, that will be the HTML file path here. So what do we want to say? Well, we want to read it as a single text value, that is find. So here, down here, let's just pick a better name. I'll say web page HTML. So then we saved it into web page HTML. I save it here. We also want to delete it, because otherwise we'll have a pop-up box where it says, should I overwrite and all these things? And let me just go back here and let me just cancel here. So if we try to click save and the file already existed, it would overwrite. So let's find a delete files and have it in here right after we read it. So, and this will just be the HTML file path, like this. So now we can start to, now we have this, the entire HTML. We can take out the body part, because we know that that's where it is. Of course, we can send the entire HTML file up, but because you pay per data, that means that it will get more expensive than simply just isolating it to the body. So that's what we're going to do. We know we have it here in the web page HTML. So now you find a crop text here. and right after the delete files. So the original text, that was the web page HTML. Here in the mode, I want to have it between the two specified flags. And that is exactly like we searched for before. That would be the body here. And let me Ctrl+C, copy it here. And then you want a / here. So we want to look in there. And let me do this. Click on the variables produced. Is flag found? Don't use that. And the cropped text, let us just say HTML body. So now we have the body isolated here in this variable in the crop text. Now we want to take and create the prompt, and let's do so. So that one will be after the crop text. This is the prompt that we will send to ChatGPT, not in the browser this time, but through the API call. So we will have a set variable. We will have it here. And up here, we will call this prompt. That will be our prompt. And here we could go to ChatGPT and take what we had created before if I didn't close the window here. And let me go up here and I need to remove all of this. So let me just take the last part. Just because I'm lazy, I can also take the single quotation marks. Then we will write this up here. And yes, we could write everything, or we could, so here I'll say this, or we could not have done it. This is the HTML body of a web page, : Then we have an enter click. Then we have these 3 single quotation marks. And now we're not going to use the HTML as copy paste, but we will use the HTML body. So click this little X here, HTML body. Make sure you pick the right variable. Enter. 3 single quotations. We didn't need that. We can just press Ctrl+V. Then we have the last part of it. Of course, you're more than welcome to rewrite it. So what we have here is that we have the prompt, and we can click Save. What you need to do here is that the API will not accept, because we are using the JSON notation, we need to take out, we need to ensure that quotation marks in our prompt are not confused with the quotation marks by the JSON formatting. So yes, I know there's quite a few steps here, but I hope you learn a lot, because this will not only teach you to leverage these AI technologies, but it will also improve your Populate desktop skills dramatically. So the text to parse, we will work within the prompt here. The text to find, that will be a quotation marks. We place it with the single quotation mark. And that is because we want to make sure that we don't get errors in our JSON formatting. That is the way to pass this prompt to the API in a little while. Let's save it back to the prompt. That's fine. I can click Save. Now we have a working prompt. Then we can have a variable where we will have the API body JSON, because this needs to be in a JSON format where we send it to OpenAI. We just need to have a set variable here, and I'll drag the set variable down here after the replace text. So here I can call this one API body JSON, and now we need to write. So at JSON, we have a curly bracket in the start. I'll have a few enter clicks here, and curly bracket in the end. And then we want to say model in quotation marks. And then we want to use the GPT-4. In the documentation, you can use other models. So this is our first key value pair. So we say we want to use the model GPT-4. And this is all in the documentation. Now we just write it. Then we want to have a comma and a new line. Then we want to say messages, : and then we want a hard bracket. Then we want a new line, and then we want an array. So we have another curly bracket, and in this array of these hard brackets, sorry. And then we want a new line, and I can say role user, comma. And then we want to have a new line. I'll say content. And this is also to show you what we can do here. And of course, it would be easier to copy from the reference. Then we want to, the content is our prompt. And yes, this is all what OpenAI say they want. So we just write whatever they say they want. Then we want a new line. Then we want an ending curly bracket to end this array. And we also want an end hard bracket that is here. So this is an array, this messages. Now we have our API body JSON. And then we just need to make sure that we have no line characters that will be new lines, because the API doesn't accept those. So then I click save. We're almost done, I promise. So then we will have our replace. Once that is done, we can make the API call. So here I will have the replace text, and I will have it down here. So the text to parse, that will be the API body JSON. The text to find, and now we're using regular expression. So this is not a regular expression, but this is a regular expression that finds a carriage return followed by a new line. So that's what we're looking for here. We want to use the regular expression, and then we want to, if we find that would be a line break, then we want to replace it with nothing. And then what we can do here is to say replace with percentage, to say it's a code block, and then 2 double quotation marks and a percentage again. What this will do is to say this is empty. After we click save, it will remove one of them and only have one. It will still work, but you cannot make one here. You need to make 2. So yeah, there's a little bit difference between, this is an empty variable, is empty value, but that's just how it is. And here we will have save it to the API button again, API body JSON like this, and click save. Now we can make the API call and use whatever we get here in this populate text field on web page. To make an API call, we find an invoke web service and put it down here after the replace text. The URL, that is where we want to send it. We already have that up here in the endpoint, which we created in the beginning. So I simply just find the endpoint, put endpoint variable. That was difficult to say. And I hopefully, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned a lot, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments that you want more of this. That's how I make my living. I would love to be a full-time YouTuber. So please, support it if you like what you see. The method that will be post. And here we will use the JSON formatting. This is also part of the documentation, but this is the same you write every time. So you just do this. So the custom headers, that will be where we use our API key, because now we need to authorize that it's us. So what you will do here is to say authorization, bearer, and we will paste in the API key. So authorization, bearer API key. Then we also want to, the request body, we also created that one. So now it gets easy because we already created. We have this API body JSON. Then you also want to go to advanced here and disable the encode request body. Then in the variables produced down here, we are not using these headers. You can delete those. Then we have this web service response where our results gets saved into. Then we click save. It comes in a JSON. Once it comes back from this API, that is just how data is transferred. That's called a JSON, JSON. We will convert it into a custom object, and that is because we can work with it easily here in Power Automate Desktop. It's almost the same. So here I will find a convert JSON to custom object. Put it in after the invoke web service. So the JSON, that will be the web service response here, and the variables produced, that will be response custom object like this. I can save it. So now let's try to see that this works, that we actually get out the selector, because if we do so, we can easily use it down here in the populate text field on web page. So let's have a breakpoint here. This just means that it will pause here, because then we're done. We know this will not work because this is a static selector. So let's go try this. and see that it actually works. So we're going to launch a new site, and we're not going to fill anything in. It will click the start, and then we're done in the web because we already set a breakpoint. We can go back here. Oh, sorry, we had to save it. So I think I just messed it up here. Of course, we need to save this. Sorry, we'll try it again. That's when you create these long live web builds. I hope you enjoy it anyway. So let's try it again. So we will launch it, and then we will start. And then in a few seconds, we will click the Ctrl+S. That might be a little bit delay here, and that is just the Windows and Power Automate Desktop. Nothing. We're not working in the ChatGPT yet. So here we are. In a few seconds, we are clicking the save. It can take up to a minute, so I will just fast forward here. That's it. It took a little bit of time, and here you can see it also takes a little bit of time to click the save. That is probably just my connection. Now we save the RPA challenge, and we're done here working in the UI. So then I go back here, and you will see that we came to this breakpoint. It's the flow is paused, and I can just stop it because we know it will not work here. But if I go over to this response custom object, I can double click here. Let me move this. This is the response that comes back from OpenAI. So what we want to do here is to go into choices, click more here. And then if you see this inside this message, so we move into choices, then we take the message, then we take the content, and here you have your selector. That will be NWRJW. Let me see if I deleted this, but if I inspect this, there you go. That's our selector. We created that with the OpenAI API. Bingo. So let's grab this because we want to isolate this from the custom object so that we can use it. So let me close this. So once we have it here, we want to have a variable with our selector. So I have a set variable. I want to have it here, and we can call this one address selector. And yeah, now it gets a little bit tricky, not tricky, but we're going to write an expression. We want to move into response custom object. We know that. Then we want to move into the choices. So a hard bracket, single quotation marks, choices, like this. Then we want to have a 0. That's because it's the first element. There's only one, but we still need to specify it. Then we wanted to have the message like this. This is just how we move in. And then we wanted the content like this. So choices, 0, message, content, like this. Read more about this response format on the OpenAI website, but it will look like we saw it, except that it will come in a JSON format, which we converted. So that's fine. I can click save. So now we have this set variable. Let me also disable this one, this breakpoint here. So what we want to do here is to open up the UI elements up here. And then in this input text, we are going to use this actual selector that gets created here. So I can also just right click, rename it just to make sure that we can see what's going on. It's not necessary, but we do it. Double click it now. So this is the old one. Click text editor. Because now what you want to do here is to, instead, we're not going to use this entire one. So what we're going to do is to select a variable, and then we're going to find the address selector. So then we're using that one instead, and the address selector, that will be the one which we will pass from here to our set variable. So that will be this input. But we can see we have this pipes around it. So what we'll do here is to have a crop text and remove those. We did that to isolate the selector, so we made completely sure that we had the selector. So what we want to do here is to, after the set variable, we will have a crop text, and then we are soon there, really soon. We have a crop text here. So the original one, that will be the address selector. And then we want to get the text between two specified flag. This one will be a pipe, and this one will be a pipe. So, and then in the variables produce, is flag found, disable that, we will not use those. Crop text, we will save it back to the address selector. So now this is all good. We also want to have a little wait here, because there's a little limit on the API and how much data we can send per minute. So here I will have a 2-second delay, and let's just have a wait here. Go up to the flow control and have a wait here of 2 seconds, like this. So then you can delete if you have anything in downloads. Let's just refresh it to see. I can also delete this just to make sure that there's nothing to be overwritten. Then we want to run and inspect it. And beware here, because we know we will only have 10 out of 70, and that's because we only fill out the address, which is what we want. I can also close all these, so we're not going to have those ones. So now we are launching Excel. I will stay with you for the first address here once we do that, and then I will fast forward. And yes, in this way we can solve the classic RPA task, which has become the industry benchmark for how good we are with working with selectors. And yeah, it is indeed an extensive procedure. The robot doesn't run so fast, but imagine the potential. We don't need to use this method for all selectors, but it's a really powerful tool to have in the toolbox if we have troublesome pages like this one. We can also use it as a fallback method. That means that we can use the classic selector, and if that one fails, we can have this as backup. This is not ChatGPT that stalls it. This is, for some reason, my browser instance. As we saw before, we saw that I fast forwarded a little bit wide. This could also be the fallback method if web developers, here we go, if web developers change the website, then we want to make sure that we have this one updated. There you go, we have the North Road, and now we will do it similarly. It runs a little bit faster now. That's probably just the first element it had some trouble with, not trouble, but my browser. There you go. So now we are filling in this, and I think this is so amazing that it's possible to create these dynamically. This will be a part of the future. Either you want to implement it yourself, or it will get implemented in the tools, so understand it. And this is not only for selectors, but understand how to leverage this OpenAI API or other large language models APIs. If you understand those, you can easily implement cool things in your company's RPA solution. And if you want to know more and solve problems, I created a Discord community. It's 100% free, community driven. We help each other with these solutions and our careers. The link is in the description below. It's called I Love Automation Discord. We are 11,000 developers helping. So if you have problem with anything here or your career, or just want to hang out and create a powerful network, join the Discord. So now we have these, we are in round 8. We will continue to round 10, and then we will have our score. But stay tuned. I want to show you more cool things we can do with AI as RPA developers. So this is round 9. And we will get 10 out of 70 if we, of course, have passed these things right. So this will be the last round. And then we click submit, and we will see that we get 10 out of 70 fields. Really, really nice. So now let's move on to the next one. We want to create test cases. To create a test case, let's move back to our flow. So what we will do here is that we have our flow. I will simply just Ctrl+A, Ctrl+C, everything. And please remember, we're going to put this one in a file and upload it to ChatGPT. So make sure you either change this API key or disable it in the platform.openai.com. Now we open up another notepad here. We paste in this entire flow. This is the code behind what we just wrote here. So you can probably see we had the set Excel path. This is written in Robin language. It's only used in Power Automate Desktop, which were WinAutomation before. So this is Robin language, which is part of the tool. That's the back of it. You see only the nice blocks, which makes it easy, but this would be the code that you had to write. So let's save this. So save as. Let's go to my desktop and let's call it RPA Challenge GPT pad for Power Automate Desktop. But this doesn't make us, you can call it what you want, then we save it. We can now upload this to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to create test cases. And this is nice because often the internal audit wants us to document this test. Now we can just find the best ones here. So I do this. Then I want to attach the file first here in ChatGPT. And I go to my desktop. This was it. So I do this. Then it will upload. I can start create my typing my prompt. Create. It's been a long case, but I hope you enjoyed it. Create test cases for this code. Review entire script before answering. And here, please see, I'm not going to say it's Power Automate Desktop. I'll just upload the code and then I'll have ChatGPT do it for me. The cases must test different aspects of, aspects of the code. Export the cases to an Excel sheet. The sheet must contain columns with expected result and result. And then I want to say be very explicit. So explicit like this. So this is my prompt. We review entire script before answering. So here we send it through. We uploaded the file, and here this only works in ChatGPT 4, which is the paid version. So now it reads my text and it says what it does. It says involving interactions with Excel web pages and an API. So here it says what how we can test it. So we have test with an Excel file having the expected. It creates a lot of test data, test cases. This is really nice. Now it says that it will create an Excel sheet with these test cases and the specified columns. So here we can see that it uses Python. We don't need to understand Python at all, although I recommend it if you are an RPA developer. So now here we can see that what happens if it's an invalid or expired API key, then you want to do this or do that. So now it creates the code for the test cases, and in a little while we will have our Excel gets produced. So here, then I can say download the test cases Excel sheet. I downloaded it here with all my RPA challenges, and if I go up here, I can do this and I can do that. So now we have test cases and the expected results. Just printed out. I have the best test cases. I just uploaded the script for my robot. The next one we want to see is the Power Automate Copilot, because now we want to start this flow from the cloud based on the trigger. We only want to do it with our words. To use Copilot in Power Automate, that is Power Automate Cloud. I can close these test cases and let's start up a browser. Then you want to go to powerautomate.com and log in if you're not already logged in. I am. Then this is the workflow engine in the Power Platform. It's closely related to Power Automate Desktop. Then I'm saying create. I will say instant cloud flow. And here I'll call this one RPA challenge starter. For now, we will just manually trigger our flow and we will click create. So here we have the canvas. This is the new designer. And we have the Copilot over here. Microsoft purchased 49% of OpenAI, and that's why we have it here. Copilot with GPT integrated in our flow. With just natural words, we can build our flow. So let's change that. So here I'll say change my flow so that the flow is started whenever and let us just fix the spelling error, whenever I receive an email. If the subject of the email is RPA challenge, then run a desktop flow like this. When the desktop flow is done running, move the email to a folder called processed here. So if I click enter now, Power Automate will say that, oh, you need to remove this trigger, and then we need to add those ones here. And here we have our flow. So we have a new trigger when a new email arrives. Then we have a condition, and here I can check. This is when the subject is equal to the RPA challenge. And here I can see invalid parameters. That means that we need to fill that one out. So, and that is because we need to select a desktop flow. So if I go back here, we called it RPA challenge GPT a while ago. So if I scroll this one down here, then I can find the RPA challenge GPT. So let me just find it here. Maybe I scrolled through it. RPA challenge GPT. I have a lot of flows. Here it is. ChatGPT, or did I call it GPT? RPA challenge GPT. Sorry, that was the wrong one. That is the. I have a lot of GPT. Let us just see something ending in GPT. And I know why I can't find it. That is because we haven't saved this flow yet. So let's just make sure we save it so we can see it here. And that is something that you once in a while will see. So let me just do this. And now we are refreshing. We can also search, we can see here. So then we are searching for RPA challenge GPT. Here we have it. So now we created a flow that says that when a new email arrives, then we want to run this flow. We also see we have this move here, and this will move each one of these emails. So yes, we could have made it differently. We could move this move email up here, so it only moves when this flow runs, or we could change the condition to a filter up here. So once this runs, this flow will run in Power Automate Desktop, and I can also close this one here. So let us try to test it. So for that, I have an email here. I will send this to myself here. And we know that we need to have the subject called RPA challenge. And down here, I can just say blah, blah, doesn't matter. So if I send this to myself like this, the flow should start. I can go out here. Oh, I have to save it, sorry. And then I need to forward this one again. Now we save it. Let me forward this email and let's see here. So here I will send it again because now we saved it. Remember to save your flows will be the keyword of today. I like these live builds because you can see how I work and think, and how we sometimes stumble into like small things that we need to fix. I also do it, so don't worry, just know how to fix them. And again, we can say blah blah. So now the trigger should run. This will usually take like 1 minute. Then we can see that the flow runs down here. We will see that we trigger the flow if we have the connection here to the MSK SOOJ. And here I can just refresh this a little while. Then we will see that once this triggers, then it usually takes like 30 seconds. Then this will trigger. Now you can see our flow is running. So now it runs. Then you will see that we are starting our, so now it runs true. Then you will see that something happened here on our desktop. Now it starts the RPA challenge, and we kicked it off from Power Automate just through Copilot. If you enjoyed this video, you should definitely check this Copilot guide. That's a complete guide that will take you to get started with Copilot, and also learn how to use ChatGPT with Excel. Those are my 2 advices to you. Have a great day.